Coming up on today's show.
And a lot of people really feel like they don't have control over email, that it just comes at them.
When you send it to 11 people and then they all reply all, it kind of it just grows and grows and grows. And before you know it, you have 100 emails.
So I think an inbox is used commonly for two things that it doesn't function very well for or wasn't intended for. And that is as a to-do list. And the other is for storage.
Okay.
I think
5 email management strategies today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we are going to dive into email and how to manage it and how to just really do it in a way that's going to make your life simpler and less stressful. How's that for a promise? And we're going to bring on Debbie Rosemont from It's Simply Placed. Debbie, welcome to Keeping You Organized.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Well, listen, email is something that I know everybody struggles with, except I think Donald Trump says he doesn't have email. But, for the rest of us who don't get on Twitter and like email or are forced to use it for work, I think everyone pretty much has the same thing. We get this deluge of email and it's very difficult to manage. So what we want to try to accomplish in this podcast is what can we do to make email easier in our life? How's that challenge?
I think I'm up for it, and there are definitely some specific steps people can take. So let's dive in.
Okay, well, we've got 5 tips, so let's start with number 1.
Yep. So the first step that somebody could take is to reduce the volume coming in. And a lot of people really feel like they don't have control over email, that it just comes at them and that they don't have any impact over what comes in, but it's not true. There are some things that anyone can do. The first is to unsubscribe from emails that you get that you no longer want or find value in. So newsletters, advertisements, that sort of thing. We can go down to the bottom of if they're sending them in a compliant legal way and click on that unsubscribe button. Right. There are also services, one called unroll.me, that can help you manage all those subscriptions and to bulk unsubscribe to any content that you're not finding value anymore. So that's one thing to help reduce that volume coming in.
Now, is the unroll.me, is that a paid app or is it free or how does that work?
I believe there is both a paid and a free version, depending on what you're wanting to accomplish.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Another thing that you can do is you can set, depending on the email program you're using, either rules in Outlook, filters in Gmail, and you can have things skip your inbox completely and go into a folder or a specific tab or label and read them on your terms. Okay. So this is also a good trick for Facebook notifications, email or LinkedIn invites, newsletters that aren't time sensitive. You don't have to read them just right as they come in, but maybe you just want to skim through them now and then. So you could set up a label or a folder that says skim and set a filter or a rule to have email skip your inbox completely and go there so that what's coming into your inbox is higher priority.
And just so people know, there are some non-technical people that would look at this. That filter or that rule looks at either who's sending you the email or what the subject line is, or maybe even a keyword, right? And then if it sees that, then it automatically moves it out of your inbox into another folder, right?
Right. It is a if-then type of situation. Okay. So you tell it, if this scenario, so as you mentioned, a particular sender, a particular subject line, etc., then do this with it. And you can have lots of options for what happens to that email. Moving it into a folder or applying a label and getting it out of your inbox is one of those options.
Okay, I'm going to just take a quick detour here because someone is going to say, well, listen, if I put it in there, what if I never read it? Or what's my system for getting in there and reading that, because I might just out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And that's a fear a lot of people have. So remember, this is usually lower priority stuff anyway, that the world would not end if you missed it altogether. But if you're not ready to unsubscribe and you have a label or a folder called skim, it can be a great idea to put a reminder on your calendar or on your to-do list once a week or so to go and review that folder or that label. And what I try and do is review it and then delete everything in there. I've read what I have time for. Anything else can go, because typically that's the kind of stuff that a new one will come the very next week.
Okay, great. So that's part of it. Is there any other tips within that, reducing volume kind of thing?
Yep. A big thing I think that helps people is to understand that the more you send, the more you're going to receive. So for every 5 emails you send out, statistically, you're going to get 3 back. So it follows then that if we send less, we're going to receive less. So that's just being thoughtful about what you send out. Does it really need to go out? Is email the right channel to communicate what you need to? But also really thinking about when you're doing a reply all. Does everybody need to get that, or just the sender? When you CC or BCC other people, do all those people really need that information or need to be a part of that conversation? Because when we create an email, if I send an email to John Hunt and I CC 10 other people, it feels like when I hit send, I'm sending an email, but I've really sent 11.
Right.
So that, send less to receive less is also a great technique for reducing the volume coming in.
Plus, when you send it to 11 people and then they all reply all, it kind of it just grows and grows and grows. And before you know it, you have 100 emails that are all about, oh, I agree. Oh, I agree. That's a good idea, and that kind of thing.
Or the email that's just the one word, the thanks, or the got it, and it's a reply all, and it perpetuates.
Great. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, that's just point number 1. We got 4 more to go on the 5 strategies for email management with Debbie Rosemont, and we'll be right back. Now, there's a place just for you. Life can be busy, and you still have to keep it all together. That's why you like to be organized and in control. Introducing MyOrganized.life, a special place where you can get ideas and solutions to organize what's important to you, your important papers, your important decisions, your important life events. We show you the ideas and products to stay organized in your life. See what's new. Stop by and say hello. Visit us at any time at www.myorganized.life. It's just for you. MyOrganized.life by Smead. Find us at www.myorganized.life. MyOrganized.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about email management, the 5 strategies for email management with Debbie Rosemont from itssimplyplace.com. Debbie, I hope we finished number 1. Do we have any more on the email volume issue? Because that's just one of five points, right?
Yeah, no, I think my main point there is just that you do have control over what comes in.
Okay.
And I think that helps people feel better about reducing the volume coming in.
Okay, well, let's move on to point or strategy number 2.
So for more effective email management, if you can do email intermittently, so at periods of time during the day, process your email rather than just being reactive to email as it comes in. So a lot of people will, come into their office or they'll, open up email at the start of the day and right away just start dealing with all the email that's there. And, it can be hard to keep up with because you deal with 3 and a couple more come in. And by the time the end of the day comes, it's 5 o'clock, and you think, well, what did I get done all day? I've just been in email. So obviously, that's a very reactive way to work. Your inbox is filled with other people's requests of you, things that they need. Maybe priority to them might not be a priority for you. So if you want to have time to be proactive and do other things during your day besides just be responsive to email, you might consider doing email intermittently. Say at the top of the hour, you're going to process the email that has come in the last hour. And everyone needs to decide for themselves how much time can pass between when they process email and what their clients or constituents can bear in waiting for a response. But I think we've gotten into a habit of being instantaneous responders, and that just teaches people that we'll always do that. It's not necessarily the lesson we want to be putting out there.
Yeah, it's like the person in the office who sends you an email and then walks over to your desk 30 seconds later. Did you get my email? It's
That's
like,
right.
why didn't you just walk over here in the first place? Yeah, and could you combine maybe point one with point two, where you have all your email, maybe all your email going into something and you check it, or is that probably psychologically not the right thing? At best, probably just what do you turn your email off, or what?
Yeah, you don't have to turn it off. I would turn off notifications because those, I think, just tend to distract more than they help. So I would turn off notifications. Typically, when you're working on something and you see a notification, it's kind of like a shiny object and your attention is drawn away. We lose time when that happens. Microsoft study showed 15 to 20 minutes is lost each time we're distracted like that in the deeper level thinking work that we might be doing. So yes, turn off notifications and then decide, do I need to check email once an hour? Some people have in their email signature a note that says something like, I check email at 10, 1, and 4 during the day. If you need something in between, please call me.
Yeah.
And so that's an approach. And other people who are in more customer service type positions or call centers, it is their job to react as things come in. So that's not going to work for them. So everyone needs to decide for themselves. But batch processing email, meaning doing a bunch at one time rather than one here and then another, it's more efficient. Yeah. So just figuring out what chunk of time is appropriate for you.
Now, I don't know if this is one of your tips or not, and I just did this, but sometimes when I'm batching my emails or trying to clear my inbox out, I alphabetize it. So if I see 4 emails from somebody, I can move them all at one time to another folder to clear that out. But have you heard anyone using a strategy like that just or do you have any strategies for, once you start processing your email?
Yeah, if you're working through a large volume of email, it can be a great idea to sort it so that you can, in big chunks, say, I don't need this whole set. Right. The couple of ways that I've seen people do that is, one, just chronologically, that's the way that it is set up. Most email programs are set up by default, but looking at the oldest first. So if you have email that's years old, you might decide, all right, anything from this date and older, I'm not going to need it. It's, it can't be anything that I'm really working on right now. So I'm just going to take and move that into an archive folder, for example. Maybe I'm not feeling safe enough to delete it, but you can sort it, by date and then just move over. Another way that people will do that is sorting it by sender. So who sent the email? And that too, you might be able to say, all right, everything from John Hunt, I need it, but I want it in this reference folder. So that's another strategy.
All right. Anything else in tip number 2 that we need to cover?
I think we got it. Just again, consider doing email intermittently, those intervals being what's appropriate for you.
Okay. Let's move on to strategy number 3.
Sure. So strategy number 3 is to process email to 0. And there's 2 words I'm going to talk about in that sentence. One, the word process. So processing email is different than checking email. Checking email is going to your inbox, opening an email, and then closing it because you don't feel like dealing with it now, and then moving to the next one and opening it, and maybe you do something with that, and then you just leave it there, and then you go to the next one. That's checking email. When we do that, we have to go back and check that email again. We don't remember what our thoughts were about it. It's just not efficient. Right. Processing means making a decision on the email and moving it out of the inbox, and I'll cover those decisions. Okay. But the other piece before I do, I want to talk about is the concept of processing to 0 that I suggested. Mm-hmm. Inbox 0 will work for some people and not for others. So when I say process to 0, if that freaks somebody out, I don't want them to get hung up over the fact that I'm saying the word 0. Everyone has a different level of tolerance for the volume that they have in their inbox where they feel they're in control. So process to the degree where you feel like you're in control. For some people, that's having 25 or fewer or 100 or fewer. For some people, it's being able to see all your email on one screen, so the no scroll rule. And for some people, it is truly 0 in their inbox.
Right. Now, have you heard of people who use their inbox as kind of their to-do list as well?
I have.
How would do you have to just leave the things in there that are the to-do tasks or whatever? Or what would you say to people that do that?
So I think an inbox is used commonly for two things that it doesn't function very well for or wasn't intended for, and that is as a to-do list, and the other is for storage.
Okay.
I think there are alternates in many email programs or software tools out there. So for Outlook, for example, clearing things out of the inbox and things that are needed, that you need to be reminded to do, making those tasks, or having a folder that says to do, and at least separating the things that you need to do away from the things you don't need to do. If you're going to use your inbox as a to-do list, you do need to make sure then that is all that is in your inbox, is things that need action. Unfortunately, most people aren't that diligent. And so that things that they need to do are mixed in with things that are for reference and mixed in with things that they don't need at all. And unfortunately, it's difficult to prioritize to-dos in an inbox, right, whereas programs that are made to manage tasks have a much higher capability of prioritization.
Right. And I know this is not going to be a course on how to use Microsoft Outlook, but I know a lot of programs will allow you to, say, for example, drag an email onto the task bar, and then it'll create a task, and then you can actually get rid of the email, and it retains that stuff. So those are good things, but then you have to remember to check your task list too, which is another thing. Debbie, I'm looking at the clock here, and we are going to not finish all 5 tips in this particular podcast. Can you come back next time and we'll wrap up the other 2?
I would love it.
Okay, well, before we do that, tell people how they can get a hold of you and what kind of services that It's Simply Placed provides.
We provide residential and commercial organizing and productivity services. We help people get and stay organized in their home, and we help people make sure that they have time to focus on their priorities at work and be as productive as they can be while reducing their stress. Individuals can find out more on our website, and that's www.itssimplyplaced.com. And we'd be happy to answer questions or chat more about this or other topics related to organization or productivity.
Okay, folks, I know you're probably just chomping at the bit to get back to that email and see what you missed while you were either listening or watching this podcast. So we're going to let you do that, but come back next time because we're going to hit part 2. We'll get the final 2 strategies for your email management, and we will send you out the door after our next podcast totally ready to conquer the email and all that the associated stress that goes along with that. We'll do that on our next time at Keeping You Organized.